To Bishop James Levert Davis, presiding prelate of the Second Episcopal District, and to Mother Aurelis Beavers Davis, who is the supervisor of missions for the WMS in the Second Episcopal District. To Sisters D. Faye Conley, who has served mightily as our Second District WMS president, and Sister Annette Dockery, the well-accomplished Director of the Young People's Division here in the Second Episcopal District, and to Brother Ricky Jackson, who is our President of the District YPD. It is my pleasure to be with you on this day. Good day to you, and welcome to this brief presentation on parliamentary procedure. So when we think about these two words, parliamentary procedure, what comes to mind? I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think about it, and then we'll share out. What comes to mind when you hear the phrase parliamentary procedure? Go ahead and pause the video now and discuss. This book, Robert's Rules of Order, this particular version is the newly revised 10th edition, is one of the texts that most organizations use in order to facilitate their meetings. Listen to what it says. This book is also designed as a manual to be adopted by organizations or assemblies as their parliamentary authority. When the manual has been thus adopted, the rules within it, together with any special rules of procedure that may also be adopted, are binding upon the body and constitute the body's rules of order. So what this is saying is that for us in the AME Church, we know we have our doctrine and discipline that is the governing book for all of our organizations, but within that, there's reference to Robert's Rules of Order. Anytime there's an organization that comes into a situation that their current rules don't already prescribe a remedy for, we go here to Robert's Rules of Order. So anytime an organization or a part of an organization, like an executive board of the YPD, gathers together in order to deliberate, to discuss, to make decisions, that becomes a deliberative assembly. And here's the thing about these deliberative assemblies. Remember that we said that parliamentary procedure is based in precedent. We need to have some way of organizing ourselves, some way of transacting business that's common, right? The issue was that because it's based on precedents, then people at one location were used to conducting business in one way, and people at another location were used to conducting business in a different way. And when those bodies came together, there was a lot of upheaval because they were not functioning under the same set of parliamentary law. And that's where Robert's Rules of Order comes in. That's exactly what happened to Henry Martin Robert that caused him to start this process of gathering together parliamentary law in one common place for everyone to share the same process. So there are a lot of things that we already know about parliamentary procedure. For instance, we know that when we would like to make a motion, that we use the statement, "I move that," and then whatever the action is follows it. We also know that there are certain reports that are only received as information. For instance, our minutes or financial reports are information because there's nothing in them that requires action. They're simply a record, and so we don't adopt them, but rather we accept or we receive them with the necessary additions and corrections. But did you know that there's also a way that we should be speaking when we're in a meeting? Check this out. Every statement that you make during a meeting should always be directed to the chairperson, never to another member. That's part of the decorum. It's like speaking to a third party. And so, for instance, we might reference the previous speaker in that way, previous member. We might use their title, President of the Virginia Conference. Anything that we can do, any way to describe that person without using their name, is actually the official way that we should speak in meetings. Even the chairperson should speak of themselves in the third person, so avoid using pronouns like I or me. The biggest part of conducting meetings in parliamentary procedure is probably the use of motions, and we really haven't spent a lot of time talking about those. In fact, there are actually several different types. Here are 5 of them that are listed in Robert's Rules of Order. Main motions, subsidiary motions, privileged motions, incidental motions, and motions that bring a question again before the assembly. These 5 types of questions should be explored in further detail. And so it's the recommendation of this presentation that, since there are 5 types of motions and there are 5 annual conferences in the Second Episcopal District, that perhaps each conference should take one of the motion types and create a PowerPoint presentation to share with the rest of the group. This now concludes this presentation on parliamentary procedure, but before you get too far, remember, this presentation had a recommendation in it. That requires someone to make a motion to deal with this action item. God bless you, and God bless the Second Episcopal District, YPD.